Hi, my name is Terry Straker and this is my store, Guitar Works Ltd. in Evanston, Illinois. When people bring me guitars and tell me they won't stay in tune, 90% of the time it's because the strings are not put on properly. Today we're going to do the most daunting restring that there ever will be for any guitar player, and that's a Rickenbacker 12 string. The first thing we want to do is take off the old strings. When I do a Rickenbacker, I take off half the strings, the bass side or the treble side first, and after I've done that, I put on those 6 strings, because on a Rickenbacker, if you take all of the strings off, this bridge will just flop over and fall off. You need a little number 1 Phillips head screwdriver and loosen these little screws right here on the side of the bridge cover and lift the bridge cover off. The other thing to keep in mind on a Rickenbacker is that it's strung backwards from every other 12 string, meaning that the larger of the 2 strings is on the top towards the player, and the skinnier octave string is on the treble side, the side away from the player when you would be playing the guitar. So once you've got this cover off, next thing to do is loosen 6 strings. Rickenbackers have an unusual peg head arrangement as well. The strings are staggered. The octave string goes on down in the slot here on the peg head and is tuned by a tuner on the back side, whereas the main strings are tuned out here on this side. It's the opposite on this side, just to make it more confusing. So anyway, you want to loosen your strings. An essential tool for me is a string crank. Once you've got them loose, the next essential piece of equipment is a good side cutter, so you can cut the strings. And then remove them from the tailpiece. There's just a little notch on the underneath side here that holds the ball end of the string in. And then we go up to the peg head end and take them off the tuners. You might need a needle nose pliers or a hemostat to get down in here to get the little strings out. Take the easy ones off here on the top first. Now for the fun ones. This was a real interesting idea that Rickenbacker had when they came out with their 12 string, to put this little slot and have the string down inside there. When you get the string off, orient the hole in the post so that it's aiming towards the nut end of the guitar at about a 45-degree angle. That'll be helpful later on. Okay, we've got the strings off. The next thing I always do when I work on any guitar that has a threaded in bushing on the tuners, like these top tuners on the Rickenbacker, these little nuts sometimes will come loose, and I can see this one is moving, and I can see this washer is loose, and that'll rattle when you're playing and make noise. This one is too. You can see how that's moving around. So you need to take a 10mm wrench and gently snug those up. You don't have to tighten them down like they're the lug nuts on your car, just snug. And almost all of them on the market are 10mm. Unless it's a real old guitar and has Grovers, they'll be 3/8 of an inch. So snug those guys up, and now we're ready to put on some strings. When I'm ready to do a restring, I have found through years and years of doing this that it's always easier to put the outside strings on and work to the center of the peg head. So the E strings first, then the A strings, then the D strings over here. Because if you put this string on, it's in the way of these others, so it makes it harder to put them on. So we're going to put the low E string on, and on a Rickenbacker it'll be the large string first. You need a set of Ricky strings. Careful when you take them out of the package, they don't uncoil and poke you in the eye. And then you look up underneath and catch the ball end in the little notch that you'll find under there. Give it a pull, be sure you're good. Put the string on the saddle you want. I keep a little tension on with my right hand and work my way up to the peg head. On the strings that are up on top here, there's a special way I like to latch those on. Line your hole up so that it's sideways. Put the string through and leave about 1 hand's worth of slack. If the string doesn't go around the post about 3 times, it won't stay in tune very well. So go through the hole, and on these upper strings I like to lock them on. And the way to lock them on is after you've gone through, take this short length of the string, and after you're over the top of the tuner post, bring it underneath the long part of the string, pull it up snug, and loop it around. Now that's locked on. I can pick the guitar up on the string. It will not slip now. Be sure that when you're wrapping it, every wrap goes under the previous one so that the string works its way down closer to the peg head. There we go, we're all locked on. String's on. Now I like to take my finger and grab the string and give it a little pull. You can hear that it went down in pitch a little bit. Now it's holding pitch, so I know the ball end is seated well in the bridge and it's tight on the peg head. And I take my side cutters and cut it off right down as close as I can to the post so that it won't poke me and draw blood. So that's the first string done. That's the easy one. Alright, we've got the octave string hooked in its slot underneath the tailpiece, the way it is supposed to be. Now for the hard part. On a Rickenbacker, because the newer ones, they've actually cut this slot all the way through. But these older ones where the slot has a bottom in it, if you put all the string in there and start winding it, one part of the string will wind this way and the other part of the string will wind this way, and it'll make a knot down in there that it'll take you 20 minutes to get the string off. The way to avoid that, put your fingers right where the tuner is and go out about 3 to 4 inches, about like that, and cut the string off. I'm continuing to keep tension on the string while I do this so that it doesn't come out at the tailpiece end. Once you've got it cut off, you're going to poke it through the hole down there, but do not stick it way out. As you can see, there's maybe an inch of string through the hole there. No good. Have it so it just barely goes through. And then wind it up. You always wind it up so the string goes over the top of the post this way, not down and under. Again, while I'm winding this on, I'm being sure that I guide it so every wrap goes right up next to the previous wrap, not in a messy way, but in a nice, clean, neat way, and that way it will stay in tune much better. You also need a reference pitch of some sort. I'm tuned a little high. I'm in tune. I prefer to grab the string lightly and just give it a little pull like this to be sure that all the wraps around the tuner post are seated, that the ball is seated well at the bridge end. Alright, now we just have to repeat that several more times. Alright, now we're putting on the A string. I've got it hooked underneath the tailpiece here in the slot where it belongs, and I kept a little tension on it with my fingers so that it wouldn't come out of the tailpiece. And I put a capo on there just so that I'd have both hands free to show you how to tie the string on up at this other end. Again, you want to leave a nice wide hand's worth of slack in the string so that the string will go around the tuner post about 3 times. You go through the hole from the inside of the peg head towards the outside of the peg head. Bring the short end of the string over the top of the string post. Tuck it underneath the long part of the string, pull it up tight, and loop it back over. Now we are locked on. last one. Through the hole just barely so it doesn't wind backwards. Roll up the string. We've got all the strings on, so now we're going to put the cover back on the bridge. We are good to go. I always like to take one last look underneath my tailpiece to be sure all the ball ends are well seated, which they are. Double check that each string is setting on its individual saddle, which they are. And check everything's in the nut well. And one last look at the tuner here. On a Rickenbacker, if you plug in mono, the one closest to the tail.